Okay, so this is huge. You got to invest in greater ministry. But you don't get so focused on the greeting ministry, on the greeting, that you forget about the follow-up. You see, if we have websites and we have email and we have social media and we're saying, come be with us, and then they get there and we're not ready for them, we look stupid. And here's what happens. If your church does it, you're not on an island. If in your community, your church shoots itself in the foot, you've hurt every church in town. Because the Holy Spirit moved that family to show up at your church on that Sunday. And maybe they haven't been in church forever for whatever reason, but they came to you and you failed. And now they say, well, figures, that's exactly what we expected. We're never going back to church again. You don't want to face Jesus one day with that. So, invest in greater ministry. Invest in it. When people come to your church, you need to greet them. Greeters are door openers. Think about it, folks. I got to tell you, some of us have been in church so long, we forgot what it was like before we were there. And I'm telling you, it takes a lot for somebody to come to a place where they know no one. And they know not what's on the other side of that door. And I'm telling you, it's a big, big step. And we need to have those greeters and ushers outside, or at least at the doors, opening doors and welcoming people. If you've got your ushers and greeters huddled up inside, handing out bulletins, and that's it, failure. Please don't do any communication ever. Failure. That's where it fails. And so, lot of strategy behind greater ministry. Women make the best greeters. They do. I promise you they do. If Vicki and I visit a church, here's the way it works. If there's a guy standing there, well, he's going to speak to me, right? Well, it's a guy thing. I'm walking up thinking, can I whip this guy? And so, and he's thinking, can I whip this guy? And so we're walking up and I take my bulletin, hey, yeah, we're glad to be here. I want to get away from this guy as fast as possible. But Vicki, I'm telling you, if she were here today and another woman was friendly to her, you would be one of her best friends for life. It's just something about the sisterhood. I can't explain it. I won't ever be able to explain it. There's something about the sisterhood. And so women make great greeters. So I could talk forever about that. But what I really want to tell you is, boy, you got to follow up with people. You got to use this as an opportunity to collect database information and then follow up with people. And it's not a form letter. It's not a form letter. It's a phone call or an email. And open the door for a visit, even if you invite them to come to the church office to visit with you, or if you invite to meet them for a cup of coffee somewhere, or if you just if they invite you to their home. But try to use that to get that personal, person-to-person touch. Not a letter. I'll tell you an interesting statistic, because I do a lot of research with churches. If I were to go to a church and I randomly assemble people to come meet with me, and I say, hey, what's the number one thing that your church does to put its best foot forward in whether it's personal communication or interpersonal communication? What's the best thing your church does to put its best foot forward? Number one answer, every church I've ever been in, regardless of the denomination or lack of denomination, number one answer, our building and grounds are beautiful. Our building and grounds are beautiful. When I say, how does your church follow up with people? We don't really follow up people. We don't really have a strategy for that. That's the problem. We love our property. We are in love with our property. We love property a whole heck of a lot more than we love people. So really invest in this ministry. Identify the small groups or the clusters of people within your church and sort of begin to know. Like, for example, know who's that group of men within your church. They meet for breakfast or coffee once a week. Or who is that group within your church that likes to play golf together? Who is that group within your church that maybe maybe they're in a book club together? Who are those little clusters of people within your church? Maybe if you have Sunday school classes, if you have a women's ministry, men's ministry, look for the small clusters of people within your church and identify within those who is the leader, who is the influencer. And then when you start to promote something, you promote it to the influencers of those clusters, and it will spread like wildfire. Because all my friends, I'm the kind of guy where all my friends, I go to church with all my friends. My dear friends, we all go to church together. And it's so funny, if our church is doing something specifically targeted to men, they will call Eddie Gooding. They won't call me. They will call Eddie Gooding, and they will say, "Hey, are you going to this? My wife says I ought to go to this. I just wondered if Susan was making you go to it. Are you going?" And if Eddie says, "I'm going," then we all go. But if Eddie were to say, "Man, I don't know, that looks boring to me," no, but they don't go. And so this is a strategy. It takes some time to identify those groups. You can identify those groups and invite the one who's the influencer within the group and get the message to that person that they'll turn people on to it. Remember this, too. I just want to say this to you. There are 3 messages that people are looking for in your church. They're looking for a church where God is real. They want to know, how is God real? We're all born with this God-sized hole in us that only God can fill. And they want to know, how is God real within this church? Specifically, what are you doing in missions, ministry, evangelism, worship, fellowship? What are you doing? How is God showing up and what is happening? Because they want to be a part of that, especially missions and ministry. And they also want to know that hope is real. Because I got to tell you, every human being on this planet is in pain. There's not one human being walking around today that's not in pain, and it's either relational, or it's physical, or it's financial, spiritual, and they just don't know about it. But everybody's in pain. And they're looking to the church. How can you help? How can sanctuary, the sanctuary, we used to call it that once upon a time, the sanctuary from the pain. How is hope real to ease my pain in this day-to-day life? They want to know that from your church. And they want to know this. How can I find friends in faith? Can I find my best friend? Can I find my best friend in the church? Can I find my best friend in this church? They want to. Everybody wants friends, whether they say they don't or don't. If they say they don't, they're lying. And can they find a best friend in faith? We need to be talking about those messages. And talking about messages, keep everything simple. We get so caught up sometimes in the methodology that we forget about the message. And I tell people don't write more than 200 words about anything. If you can't say it in 200 words, they're not reading past 200 words. And so keep it all simple. Just remember the USA Today mantra. Simple words, simple sentences, simple paragraphs, simple copy. I should not have to use a dictionary to look up any word in anything you do within the church. Simple, simple, simple. And here's the other thing. Tell people what you want them to do. There's a great sociology book out there called The Influentials that basically makes a case for it, and I believe it. You put 10 random people together, like on a jury, 12. One person is going to stand up and say, here's what I think we should do, and the rest will be so wanting to get home, they will say, yeah, we'll do that. And so tell people, this is the best story I can give you about the message. My best friend, I may get a little weepy here. When my best friend got to empty nest, he and his wife sold everything they owned. Every single thing they owned. Even the property he had inherited from his grandfather. They sold everything they owned and moved to Africa to be missionaries to orphans. And so he had a ton of money from all that. But he also needed ongoing support. And so he wrote this letter looking for mission support. And he sends me a copy of the letter. And he says, what do you think? Folks, this thing is 2 pages long, single-spaced. And it starts out, hey, dear friend, first and foremost, I just want to ask you to pray for me. All the way down to the last paragraph. And if you can find it in your heart prayerfully, to contribute to our mission, we would appreciate you going to our website and pledging money. And I called him up and I said, man, I love you. You're like a brother to me, but this is the worst letter I've ever read in my life. This honestly, this letter makes me want to look for a Red Dot liquor store. Look, if you want money, we need money. I said, look, here's your letter for you. Dear friend in faith, Donna and I have sold everything we own to go be missionaries in Africa to orphans. We need money. Please go to this website and donate money. God bless you. P.S. Because we know we're only sending this to believers, we know we can count on you to pray for us. Simple. You got to understand, too, in all of this, kind of return on investment when it comes to communication, because it is an investment, and you have to be good stewards of it. And so you need to do things, you need to do the research and do the planning and do the things that you know are going to pay off for the kingdom. And so need to be good stewards. I know this is kind of a secular term, but it's important to really have a purpose for all you do and to see that it is working and that it is moving people to action. And then the last slide is this one. This is the Scott Vaughan strategic formula for all promotion that will ever be. And I can tell you that this absolutely works. But you can't use this formula and say, oh, in 2 weeks we want to have a mission fair and we hope everybody in America will come to it. Because that's just not the way the world works. You can't do things in 2 weeks and expect people to respond to it. I've used this to plan my boys' birthday parties. I've used this to plan my parents' 50th anniversary party. I've used this to plan, I can't tell you how many local church ministry endeavors. And it's really this. It's the best message to the best audience by the best method at the best time. To do that, to do the research, to get to that, you need to be planning about 9 months in advance. And you really need, and so what this calls us to do is do fewer things, but do them first class. Do fewer things better. Do fewer things better that you can really get traction out of. So you have a great simple message. You know your specific audience. You know the best method by which to reach them because you've talked to the audience, and you know the best time to get that message to them. Timing is everything. if my parents had gotten frisky 5 minutes one way or the other, I might be a woman. And so timing is everything. And so don't discount that. Sometimes here's what we do. We say, okay, well, here, we got this activity coming up. Let's put this best method here. Let's get it on the website. Let's get something on the website. Let's get something on Facebook. Let's send something by email. We rarely ever consider the message, the audience, or the timing of the delivery. You got to consider the whole package if you want it to really be effective. And it does work. I promise you that it does work. Okay, so that's it. Are you any questions? We got about 10 minutes. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I heard you talk about following up with visitors. As I've been in different
Yes.
places across the country, there are some places where you can go, people will let you come to their house. There's a lot of people that won't let you come to their house. There's people that don't want you to ring their doorbell.
Don't show up at somebody's home unannounced is my best advice for you.
These were older traditions. We're going to deliver bread. We're going to the doorbell, ring the bell, take to them.
Right.
The thing I've tried is if they come 2 times, I take them to lunch and find out why they're there.
Yeah. That's perfect.
But I wonder if you have some other thoughts about what kind of, when you said follow-up is most effective with folks who are visiting.
I'll tell you, first of all, not to pick on you, but let me just say, the word today in today's culture is guest. The visitor word is dead. You have visitor parking, you need to go back and change it to guest parking. Visitor implies you're coming and you're going back for wherever the heck you came from. Guest implies to everybody, this person's here for us to serve. Disney did that to us. Disney single-handedly changed customer service. And so we talk about connecting with guests. Here's what I have found, because I'm part of the greeter ministry at my church when I'm there, and also I'm a deacon. I'm double ordained in the Baptist faith. I'm both a deacon and a minister, and so it gets complicated. But what I've found works is, first of all, I will call people or I will email them. If I email people, I almost always get a response back. If I call people, I always leave a voicemail message. I don't even answer my phone unless it's somebody I've got in my contacts. I let them leave a message, then I call them back. And so I've gotten very little response off telephone calls, but it's still a victory because I'm getting a welcome message to them. And they know I've called, whether they call me back or not. I have a lot of success with email, and I'll send an email and I'll say, listen, thanks for being with our church today. Thanks for being a guest at our church today. I've been a member of this church for 25 years. If I don't know the answer to a question, I know where to find it. And so, what I will do is, if it's a woman, I will always say, and if you would like to contact my wife, here's her email address, and here's her phone number. And so I'm very strategic about that. And either me or Vicki, we almost always get a return email. And I love the idea of inviting them to meet you somewhere in a casual setting away from the church property. But a lot of churches have had success saying, hey, would you like to meet with us during the week, meet with one of our lay members, meet with one of our lay leaders, get a tour of the church property, let us show you where all the things are with nobody here so you can sort of see your way around. But yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Anybody? Yeah.
You mentioned your research conversation in the local target, looking for a church, de-churched, unchurched. That sounds a little bit like a southern or east coast strategy. I'm wondering, here would the question be, I'm looking for a place to make a difference in the world. You know, one around here who can do that, and you end up at the church. The question is, are we an explicitly Christian organization out here, or are we in the meaning business, community business? And oh, by the way, it's the church and Jesus Christ is the way we do that.
I think you have to massage that to work for you. Because, I mean, I've worked with churches. I worked with 2 different Lutheran congregations in Sacramento. had the same kind of deal, and it worked for me there. But yeah, I mean, if you think that in your community that would be a better conversation, do that. The other thing I want to tell you folks is if you are doing, no matter what you ever hear me say, if you're doing something and you feel like it's really working the best it can work, you keep on doing it. Keep on keeping on. Because I don't argue about any of this. I just, I can just share with you what I see and what I do. But if you're doing something and it's contrary to what I say, but it's working for you, full steam ahead. Make sure it's working for you.